Hello and welcome to Why Medics Matter, a podcast for doctors, by doctors, brought to you by Doctors Training. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Amie Burbridge.
And I'm Dr. Simon Fraser. Welcome.
Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion today, Simon. And this is going to be a short episode on a reflection of the episode that you did with Dr. Susie Sterling on coaching and the value of coaching. And I guess over the last year, everywhere I look is coaching for doctors, coaching. And it's been become big business. And the first time I was introduced to coaching was by yourself, actually, on a course that I did a couple of years ago. And it wasn't really something that had come along on my radar. So thank you for introducing me to it. And I remember having a mini coaching session on the course, and I found it so valuable. And it led me to go and think, oh, maybe coaching is for me, actually. But I didn't really understand what the difference with coaching was with, I guess, seeing a counsellor or a mentor. So I guess, do you want to start by what your thoughts are on coaching?
Well, I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to thank you for sharing that. You said you found it really valuable.
Yeah.
Why?
Do you know, I didn't know the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're having a conversation with a coach who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your quirkiness or your weird foibles, or hasn't got a vested interest in you as a person, they don't know your personality. I found that really valuable because there was no bias there. There was no judgment.
No judgment. And that was so important to me because as doctors, as people, we don't like to be judged. And certainly I remember this first very small coaching, there was no judgment. And that was so important. Not knowing the person, and also the safe space that coaching is. It's very psychologically safe. I felt that I could talk about anything in a safe space. And that for me was really, really important. Absolutely. And there was another thing going on there, which I don't know if you realised, is somebody was listening.
Yeah. Actively listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about in the course about the importance of listening. And I think I reflected that I didn't properly learn to listen till I trained as a coach. I think doctors think we're good listeners, but we're not. And I often say to people, and I probably said this to you in the day because I say it all the time, which was, when was the last time somebody stopped and listened to you without telling you what to do? And you can do a lot in 5 or 10 minutes. We talked about mini coaching, so we didn't train you as coaches. You weren't qualified coaches. You hadn't done my LM5 certificate. But what you did is you learned to listen with empathy and without fixing. And I'm going to ask you another question. How hard did you find it not to fix when you were coaching?
It's really difficult because somebody has a problem. And the problem that somebody brought to me was, should they drive to the airport or get the train? Okay, so it was, and we ended up having a discussion about this, and we thought of all the different options. And I said, why don't you get a taxi? And I think that was the role of a coach, actually, was to give a completely different option that the person hadn't thought about. And that's really relatable as well when you coached as a doctor or another way of life as well.
Or help them find an option.
Help them find an option, yes.
Not
come to it
give them an option. That's sneaky. That's advice by so you probably snuck into the common thing, which is even when you were thinking you weren't giving advice, you were giving advice.
I know.
By stealth. And the difference between coaching and mentoring, and the reality is a spectrum. Your traditional mentor is your very wise senior person who you go to for advice. And it's nice being a senior wise person. Everybody comes to you for advice because you feel valued and stuff, but actually it doesn't help anybody. Because what we do, we continue to infantilize people. Now, a coach, I can coach anybody who's not a doctor because I don't have to have same lived experience. But the reality is I enjoy coaching doctors. I don't enjoy coaching firemen because I've got no interest in it, okay?
And sometimes I will give advice, and sometimes I'll say, I'm just going to come out of coaching mode. I'm going to offer some advice, but not loaded. Okay, so there's a lot we use in the language. But I think what you were doing in that moment, Amie, was coaching for small c. So we can talk about coaching where you might contract with somebody and you think, do you know what, I need a block of coaching for a period of time to deal with a problem. Often it is transition or something important, important decision or interview practice, yeah? As opposed to a mentor, that's somebody you pair with for a long time. So as you know, I've got Gary, who's my business mentor, and I've worked with him for 3 years. And every 8 weeks, we catch up for a couple of hours, and he's what I call my accountability partner. But if he was telling me what to do every time and not listening or help me find advice, that wouldn't really help me. So you can do coaching with small c, coaching with big C, coaching with small m. Is that your only experience of coaching, Amie?
Yeah. I guess I hadn't really experienced actual coaching until sort of within the last year. And the question, I guess the thing that I like about coaching is I went to it with a question or like a magic question or something that it's not really a problem that I want to solve. And I probably know the answer, but it's trying to tease that out of myself. And the answer was, should I stop working as a doctor? But the question was, should I stop being a doctor? Doing clinical practice. It was a big question. And it was the coaching sessions it was getting me to make that decision rather than, the coach making that decision for me and prompting me to think in very different ways, why I was thinking in those ways. It was really enlightening. I'm still not sure of the answer to any of these questions, but I think it's such a big question that I think 6 sessions. It was only 6 sessions, and I think sometimes coaching may take longer. Yeah.
And I think we've also got to, as Susie said, know when it's the right time to coach.
Now,
am I ready to climb the mountain?
Yes.
Or do I need a little ladder to get me out of a bit of a hole at the moment?
And you've hit the nail on the head. I wasn't ready to be coached.
Yeah. So we're actually, it's deciding when the coaching's right alongside those other supporting interventions.
Absolutely.
So and maybe that you would not necessarily, you probably can get the most out of it because you weren't your most resourceful, but now you are. It's a great opportunity to sort of build on.
Definitely.
So if we've got people out there who listen and thinking, I'm really not sure what to do for my career. This isn't quite what I expected. I've got these challenges. Maybe I don't know if I'm in the right specialty or if I should take a role. How do you think coaching might help those?
I mean, I've certainly been in that position as a resident doctor and as a consultant, asking myself all of those questions. And the most valuable thing, I think, is to be heard and to have your thoughts validated. And, if I was in that situation where I'm not sure what to do, such as in Susie's scheme, which is this amazing scheme which involves residents and coaching can really help because you've got somebody who's listening to you in a non-judgmental, safe space, and is really allows you to, I guess, just talk. And sometimes when you talk, things come out that you didn't even know was there, and that can be really enlightening.
And the skill of a good coach is not to fix.
Yeah.
And give the space. And I think that you picked up your experience on our workshop where it was a stranger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't have, so often in our scheme in Yorkshire, we tend to avoid people in the same specialty.
Yes.
Who don't know you, who aren't involved in your career progression and creating that safe space. Were you surprised how quickly you opened up to the stranger?
I couldn't believe it. It was really bizarre. Now, I don't know whether that was a combination of the fact that they were actively listening, and when people adopt that sort of physical presence of a listener as well. So it wasn't just knowing they were listening, but they were also actively listening with their facial expressions and their body expressions, which was just fantastic. It was really easy to open up to them. Way easier than I thought, actually.
I did a session a couple of weeks ago where we were just giving people some basic coaching skills to use throughout their job. And I asked one of the delegates, who I'd only met that morning, to come to the front and do a role play. And we did this role play, and she started crying within the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Gosh.
In front of an entire group of 20 peers that she'd only met for that day. And it's quite powerful to escape into that space. I truly, I think people might listen and go, wow, that's what I mean. People might go, oh gosh, this is a bit touchy-feely. This is a bit like therapy. And one of the things I'd say is, when I do coach people, the 2 questions I ask, and I use coaching and appraisal, which is, what do you want to cover if we have a session? And often that sometimes people struggle with knowing what to discuss in a coaching session and that clarity. But the second question I always ask people is, how much challenge are you comfortable with? And I think sometimes we have limiting assumptions that hold us in a place. And if you ask permission, when you're having these quite delicate conversations, how much challenge? And one of my favorite questions is, if nothing changes, what are the consequences?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it allows a vulnerability as well, doesn't it? And I think that's priceless, to be honest, because it can really change people's lives and perspectives, and huge impact.
I just want to finish on one final reflection, really, as we come towards the end, is I don't want to say too much because I don't want to disclose any details, but I got contacted by the scheme to provide some coaching for a resident, a senior doctor in a surgical specialty, and she was in a bad place. And we worked together over a year, and the transformation to the point that she felt confident to challenge her supervisors for some of the bad behavior. But it only came from getting herself into a state of feeling well and back in control. The data from Susie's work shows that the retention and the value of keeping people in medicine through coaching is invaluable.
It's certainly something that I think we should all have access to. Sadly, that's not the case, but everyone can benefit from it at the right time.
Absolutely. And it might be worth an investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be the best investment you make. A lot of trusts will have access to coaching within the organization, and quite a lot of the professional support units. But hopefully, even if it's not a coaching, it's finding somebody wise who's going to listen without telling you what to do, and having, I suppose, critical friends.
Yeah. Really important. Yeah. Thank you so much, Simon. Really good to get some insights into coaching. And a massive thank you to everybody who's listening to the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. And thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.